Intermittent fasting. You've probably heard about it, right? I mean, it's everywhere, hailed as this secret weapon for weight loss and just feeling amazing. So today, we're going to figure out, is it a legit health hack or is it just a lot of hype?
The promises are huge: a fired-up metabolism, fat just melting away, maybe even a lower risk of serious diseases. But does this super popular eating style actually live up to all that? We're going to cut right through the noise and look at what a major scientific review found when they crunched the numbers.
So to start, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. Before we dive into the science and all the debates, what is intermittent fasting, really? Well, it's actually a pretty simple concept at its core. Okay, so unlike most diets that are all about what you eat, no carbs, low fat, all that, intermittent fasting is all about when you eat. It's basically an eating plan that goes back and forth between times you eat and times you don't. The main focus isn't really on counting calories, but on watching the clock.
So how do people actually do this in real life? It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. There are a few really popular ways people approach it, so let's quickly break down the big three.
The most common one you've probably heard of is the 16-8 method. This is where you fast for 16 hours a day. And hey, a big chunk of that happens while you're asleep, and you fit all your meals into an 8-hour window, like maybe from noon to 8 p.m. Then there's the 5-2 diet. Here, you eat like you normally would for 5 days a week, but on 2 days that aren't back-to-back, you cut way down to about 500 calories. And finally, you've got alternate day fasting, which is definitely more intense. You fast or eat very, very little every other day.
Okay, so we know what it is and the different ways to do it. Now for the main event, does it actually work? Well, a major review by the Cochrane Collaboration, that's a global independent network of top-tier researchers, decided to find out for real. And honestly, their top-line conclusion was pretty blunt. They found that for people who are overweight or obese, the benefits of intermittent fasting they don't match the hype. So how did they reach such a strong conclusion?
Well, this wasn't some small, one-off study. The team got really deep into the evidence, analyzing 22 different randomized clinical trials.
And altogether, those studies included nearly 2,000 adults from all over the world. So we're talking about a really solid, broad set of data to work with here. So, what was the big takeaway when it came to weight loss? This is really the crucial part. The review found that intermittent fasting made little to no real difference compared to just following traditional dietary advice, like simple calorie restriction. The results were basically the same across the board. There was no magic bullet here. And one of the review's lead authors, Professor Eva Madrid, she summed it up perfectly. She said it's not a miracle, but it can be a tool in the toolbox. Just one option among many that might work for some people, but it's not automatically better than anything else.
But wait, weight loss is only part of the story, right? People who love fasting often talk about other amazing benefits that go way beyond the scale, like something called cellular repair. So let's take a look at the evidence for those claims.
The big one you hear thrown around is autophagy. Sounds complicated, but it's basically your body's cellular cleanup crew. It gets rid of old, damaged parts to make way for new, healthy ones. The theory is that fasting kicks this whole process into high gear. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The autophagy story sounds great, but most of the research that supports it comes from animal studies, not humans. We still don't really know how long people need to fast to see any significant effect.
Now that being said, there are other potential upsides. Some studies suggest fasting may help decrease inflammation and could improve things like blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. And just on a practical level, the structure of it can help some people get a handle on their eating habits, especially when it comes to cutting out late-night snacking.
But it's absolutely crucial we look at the other side of the coin, because the side effects are real. Hunger is the main one, obviously, but it can also lead to fatigue, headaches, and just feeling kind of irritable or hangry. Some people have really low energy and find it hard to concentrate, and for some, the whole restrictive nature of it can actually increase the risk of binge eating later.
So, all of this brings us to the most important question of all. Is intermittent fasting right for you? Because, and this is super important, it is definitely not for everyone. Health experts are really clear that some people should avoid intermittent fasting entirely. This includes anyone who is pregnant or breastfeeding, kids and teenagers, and people who are underweight. It's especially risky for anyone with a history of an eating disorder. And if you're taking medications, especially for diabetes, you absolutely have to talk with your doctor first. No exceptions.
Ultimately, this whole conversation circles back to a really simple point.
Professor Luigi Fontana, who has studied these diets for a long time, argues that it's not about the fasting itself. What truly matters for long-term, sustainable results is finding a healthy eating pattern that you can actually stick with.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Intermittent fasting can be a useful tool for some, but it's not a magic hack. It seems to work for weight loss because, well, you end up eating less food, not because of some unique metabolic trick. So maybe the real question we should be asking isn't what's the best diet, but what's the best healthy eating pattern for me? Something to think about.